All right, hello everyone, and welcome back. So, today we're going to get into a question that I know is on a lot of your minds, especially those of you coming into this class with a strong background in Aristotle. Can we really reconcile Aristotle's virtue ethics with Scheler's phenomenology of values? Now, this isn't just some abstract academic puzzle. What we're really asking is, can we combine these two incredibly powerful systems to create something even more robust? A practical, workable method for actually doing ethics. We're going to see how later phenomenologists tackled this exact project and why it's so important for anyone who wants to put this philosophy to work. So, here's our game plan. We're going to build this argument in 5 steps. First, we'll look at the problem that Schiller was really responding to. Then, we'll unpack his unique contribution, do the same for Aristotle, and finally, see how we can construct a really powerful synthesis from these two thinkers. Okay, let's dive right in. To really get a handle on Scheler, you have to understand the philosophical world he was walking into. And that means you have to understand the immense influence of Immanuel Kant and his formalism. You see, Kant believed that for ethics to be truly universal, it had to be scrubbed clean of all the messy, particular details of our actual lives. That meant emotions, personal desires, specific situations, all of that had to be bracketed out. The only thing left was this pure, formal, unconditional duty that you arrive at through reason alone. So here's the crucial point. Kant absolutely achieved a kind of universality, but the critique from thinkers like Hegel, and especially later from Scheler, was that this came at a huge cost. He ended up with an ethics that, frankly, depersonalizes us. It creates this split between the cold logic of moral reason and the warm reality of our lived emotional experience. And that's where Scheler comes in with this really radical counterproposal. He basically challenges that whole Kantian picture by putting our emotional life right back at the center of ethics, not as an obstacle, but as a cognitive faculty. Scheler introduces what he calls a material value ethics, and this is just a brilliant move. He argues that an ethics can be material, meaning it's full of actual content, real stuff, and still be a priori, meaning objective and universal. So how does he do that? He says the content isn't given to us by abstract logic, but through intentional acts of feeling. This is a complete 180 from Kant. For Scheler, feeling isn't some blind, irrational impulse that gets in the way of morality. No, it's an intentional act, just like seeing or hearing. Our feelings are always about something. They are a form of perception that gives us direct access to a whole realm of objective values. It's like Scheler is saying, the heart literally has its own reasons, its own logic. And what does this emotional perception reveal? Well, according to Scheler, it's not some random chaos of feelings. It's an ordered reality. He argues that values are given to us in a clear, objective hierarchy, all the way from simple sensory values up to the spiritual and the holy. We grasp this order through acts of loving, and this is key, preferring. For example, we just feel, intuitively, that justice is a higher value than mere pleasure. This hierarchy isn't something we invent, it's something we discover through feeling. Okay, so Scheler's giving us this whole new vocabulary, and if we want to bring him into a conversation with Aristotle, we have to be extremely precise about what these terms mean. It's a very common mistake to just equate Scheler's values with Aristotle's virtues, but they're fundamentally different things. And here's the problem that this distinction brings up. Let's say I have this powerful, intuitive feeling of the value justice as this universal essence. That's one thing, but that intuition all by itself doesn't automatically tell me what the just action is right here, right now, in this messy, complex situation I'm facing. You see the gap? This table here illustrates the core difference we really need to get. Scheler's values are objective, ideal essences that we perceive. They exist out there, independent of us. But Aristotle's virtues, well, they aren't things you see out there. They are qualities of character. They are dispositions that are woven into the very fabric of a person's being, their ethos, and they're cultivated through habit and understood through practical reason. And this is exactly where Aristotle, and specifically his concept of phronesis, becomes absolutely essential. He provides the very tool we need to bridge that gap between the universal value that we feel and the particular action that we have to take. Phronesis, or practical wisdom, is precisely this kind of moral knowledge that moves between the universal and the particular. This isn't abstract theoretical knowledge like in math. It's the skill of seeing what a situation really calls for and deliberating well about how to act. It's moral street smarts. So how does it actually work? Well, it's a process. The person with practical wisdom first perceives the morally important features of a situation. Then they think about the best way to achieve the good. They discern the appropriate response, that famous golden mean between extremes. And then they decide on a concrete course of action for this moment. It's the skill of applying wisdom, of making the universal fit the specific case. So now we have our two pieces. Let's see how they can fit together to build a single, cohesive framework. One that I think you'll see is way more powerful and practical than either system could ever be on its own. So here's the crucial insight. Think of Schiller's hierarchy of values as your moral compass. It gives you an objective, unwavering direction. It always points toward the good, toward true north. But a compass alone isn't enough to get you through a dense forest or a tricky mountain pass. For that, you need Aristotle's contribution, the skill of navigation, the practical wisdom to read the map of the terrain and chart a course. This synthesis gives you a complete ethical toolkit. It grounds your moral life in objective, felt values, so ethics isn't just a matter of opinion. But it also gives you the practical mechanism, phronesis, for acting wisely in the real world. It puts our emotional perception and our practical reason back together again. And most importantly for you all, it forms a really solid and defensible method for doing your own ethical philosophy. And this is what I really want you to take away from this. This isn't just about reconciling two dead philosophers, it's a living method. So the next time you're facing a morally complicated situation, don't just ask what the rule is. Ask yourself first, what is my heart's intuition, my Schellerian compass, telling me about the values that are at stake here? And then ask, how can I use my Aristotelian practical reason to navigate the specifics of this situation wisely? That right there is the synthesis in action.